Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Amber and this is a homemaking day in the life vlog. I'm actually starting out the night before making dinner, and I made some ravioli and a homemade Alfredo sauce for it. So there's that Alfredo sauce cooking up. I just did a simple roux with some milk and let that boil until it thickened. And then I added in some seasonings, and here they are. I did Italian seasoning, and I just kind of eyeballed it. And I also did some oregano, also just eyeballing it, and some onion powder. And in there already was some also some mustard, but in there already was some garlic and then some garlic paste. And so then I just added a little bit of garlic powder because I wanted to bring out that garlic flavor. I guess I added my paste in later. Even though it was date night, I wanted to add in a pretty bold garlic flavor. I also added some basil paste from Aldi as well. It's really, really yummy. It almost tastes like pesto, but a little different. So I'm just mixing in all of those seasonings before I add in my Parmesan cheese to thicken it up even more. So it was about a cup of Parmesan cheese in the end, but just pouring that in, and also adding some salt and pepper. And while I was doing this, I also had some chicken actually boiling, and just as a quick way to cook it. So I added in all the necessary seasonings to make it taste good, which for me is fresh ground salt and fresh ground pepper. And apparently a lot of pepper. So I'm just mixing that all together and letting that cheese get really melty and my sauce get really thick. I had to add milk to it a couple different times just so that it wasn't too thick, but it turned out delicious. So, and I'm going to check on my meat here in just a minute, my chicken. And I'm actually going to be chopping that up to put it into my Alfredo sauce. So I knew it was ready when it coated the back of my spoon, but I just decided to taste it to make sure all the seasoning was correct. And apparently I thought it was pretty good. So once that kind of got to the consistency and desired texture that I wanted it to be, I turned that down and just let it stay on a low heat. Here I'm just checking the internal temperature of my chicken that was boiling, and I'm gonna pop it onto a cutting board and chop it really small so that I can put it into my Alfredo sauce. So that's just what I'm doing here, chopping it up. And I don't know, if I probably would have planned ahead, I might have baked this or even sauteed it, but I decided that because my chicken was still frozen that I should wait and just go ahead and boil it. So here I am chopping it up. Also added some water to a pot and started boiling that for my ravioli noodles. I added all of my chicken into my homemade Alfredo sauce, and it looks like I'm losing a few pieces there, but I'm just stirring to combine. So here are my raviolis. That one was a 5 cheese and this one was a spinach and mozzarella. They're from Aldi, and we didn't really like the spinach and mozzarella, but that's okay. Our dinner still turned out beautifully. And I made some garlic bread to go along with it, and here are just the shots of our table once it was set. And there's my husband getting ready to enjoy our date night dinner. And that night we also decided to pull our bed into the living room, and we made a huge mess. So this is me the next day just cleaning up, and I'm just starting out with the dishes and cleaning the kitchen, because since it was date night we went straight from the kitchen into the living room for our movie, and yeah, there's our bed on the floor. So that was the disaster that we made in our living room that definitely needed to be cleaned up. So that is what I'll be doing in the next clips. So I had to basically unmake the bed and then stand it up by myself and move it back into our bedroom. So here I am doing that, looking super duper strong. So, and I love making our bed. It is like one of my favorite tasks or chores. So I also love watching this footage of myself making our bed. I find it very satisfying, especially when other people post it, but even when I post it. So that's our bedroom, completely cleaned and put back together. So, and then I'm gonna do the same thing in the living room. Just get some vacuuming done, clean the couch. We ate popcorn and you saw that picture of my husband eating cereal on the couch. So I just vacuumed and took apart and then put back together our couch and put our throw pillows back on the couch correctly. And then I'm just kind of organizing our blankets into that basket and finishing up some sweeping. Next, since I was just home and hanging out and we had 4 or 5 peaches that were about to go bad, I decided to make some peach crisp, and apparently the camera was not in the right spot. Sorry about that. Yeah, so I just decided to make some peach crisp, and I am just getting some bowls out and cutting up my peaches and peeling the peaches, because you don't need the peeling for, peach crisp. So I just didn't want our peaches to go bad. And the recipe that I actually used, I ended up having it because it called for 6 to 8 peaches. I only had 4 peaches. So I did half of all of those measurements and did it in a very small, probably less than half the size of a 9x13 pan. And it turned out delicious also. We snacked on it for dessert that night. My peaches, like I said, we didn't want them to go bad, so they were really ripe, and it was quite the juicy mess trying to, peel them. But those went into the batch or the bowl, and then some melted butter and some cinnamon went in on top of those, as well as some brown sugar. And I just went ahead and stirred that up and, let those things combine. I also added some cornstarch. It's kind of the thickening agent. And then I just set that aside once, those wet ingredients were combined. And I got out my little pan. Where's it at? Oh, there it is. And I sprayed it down with some olive oil kitchen spray. And I just put my peaches down in the bottom of my pan. And then I end up starting on the crumble part, or the crisp part of the recipe. In a separate bowl, because you don't want that to get too wet. I added, I think it was, quick oats and more brown sugar and I think more cinnamon. Oh, not yet. I had to add the flour first. So I added that flour, and then I added in, like I said, more cinnamon. And next I added just a pinch of salt, is what I call the form. And also cold butter, because that's what gives it that nice texture. So I think it was a half a stick. I could be wrong. And I just got this recipe on Pinterest. So if you follow me on there, I probably pinned it in my food section under desserts. Next, I took a pastry cutter and just started chopping up that butter, basically, combining it with my dry ingredients. In the recipe, I actually said to do this before going in with your hands, so I decided to follow the recipe this time. Normally, I wouldn't. Normally, I would just go straight in with my hands, but I thought this might help a little bit. So next, I just went in with my fingers until it was a very small, a little bit smaller than pea-sized consistency. And apparently that took me a while, but after that I added it on top of my peaches. And I didn't end up adding all of it because it seemed like too much for the amount of peaches I had, but I added a little over half of the crumble mixture, so I maybe even would have done a smaller batch of that. And meanwhile, I was heating up my oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. So here is my peach crumble right before I started to bake it. And it has that nice thick layer of crumble on top of the peaches. So like I said, it was at 350, and then I just popped it in and set a timer for about 20 minutes on my oven. But I think I ended up leaving it in there for closer to 35 minutes. I just checked it at 20. So here I am cleaning up after baking, because that is always a must. And I'm just washing the dishes because the dishwasher was running at this point, so I didn't want to just leave them in the sink. And then I decided to unload the dishwasher because I guess it was done running. So I'm just putting all of my dishes away, and then I decided to do my devotions. And I just read those.
Okay, I just thought I would do a little bit of an outfit of the day since I'm doing this little day in my life. So I'm just wearing this dress from Target, and it's got some really pretty detailing and cute neckline. It also has pockets, so that's always a must. And it's this burnt orange color. I think it's super pretty. It's kind of shapeless, so I added this little belt, and it just came in a 3-pack from TJ Maxx, I believe. And I also threw on this cardigan because it was quite cool this morning. And that is also from Target. I got it last winter though. So this is what the dress looks like without that cardigan. And these little puffy sleeves, I just think they're darling. They come down about to my elbow, I guess, but I just think they're super cute. And yeah, and then these tights, I don't know, they're probably from Target or Walmart, somewhere like that. They're just black tights. And also in these black booties, they're super cute, and I got them from Aldi. So yeah, they're in their little aisle that has different items in it other than food, and they were like $13. I had them in my size and I bought them. Yeah, so, and I have my pearl earrings on my studs because they're just easy and simple, and my hair's half pulled back, also super crazy because I just got done cleaning. So anyway, here's my outfit of the day, and I just love this. I think this dress is so comfortable and just easy to move in. So here is my peach crisp, and oh, I think it looks beautiful. It's just a tiny little batch, big enough for 4, but it smells heavenly. It's cooled, and I can't wait to eat it tonight. Zane, isn't it cute? It's so small. Thought I'd show you the end product. So I thought I would include you guys on this creative part of my day. I went ahead and got my sketchbook out, and I decided to just add to the sketch that I had done yesterday. Not really a sketch, it's some scripture, and it's Psalm 139:14, and it says, "Take rest in knowing you are fearfully and wonderfully made." So I'm just gonna add some foliage with some pen and ink, and then I'm probably gonna add a little bit of watercolor because I think watercolor makes it really beautiful. So adding ink and watercolor together are some of my favorite techniques, so I thought I would bring you along. Would you watch? So here I am just adding some vines and a little bit of foliage to my drawing with just a fine point Sharpie pen in a sage colored green, and just adding that in throughout the wording and the lettering, and not really going over the lettering, but kind of making it look like it's behind the lettering. Next, I just went ahead and added in some rose type shapes with just a little bit of a darker maroonish colored
pen this time, and I just kind of did some swirls and some different things like that to make it look like an abstract rose. So, and again, I'm just using a pen Sharpie for that. And next up, like I mentioned, I like to add in some watercolor behind my pen, or I guess on top of my pen. And so that's what I'm doing. I just grabbed some water, some brushes, and some green watercolor and added that into my water, or mixed that into my water, and I just went over all my green pen markings and just kind of emphasized the color there. You can still see the pen mark, but it kind of just gives it a little extra pop when you add that behind it, or on top of it rather. So once I was done with that, I just went ahead and I kind of switched my colors around. I added some red and some blue onto my little palette there, which was just a jar lid, and just to make my own purple maroon color. And I just mixed those until my desired color was reached, and then I added those on top of my roses. And I also kind of added a little swirl or a little line behind all of my purple or maroon colored letters as well. So here is my finished product, and I think the, pen and the watercolor just added something special to it.
So tonight for dinner, I think I'm going to be making some lemon butter couscous and garlic. That'll be really good with Israeli couscous, which is kind of a bigger pearl type of couscous. The other ones are very small, smaller than rice. But I think we're gonna be making some salmon and maybe some Brussels sprouts or green beans, something roasted. I have some frozen vegetables in the freezer and some frozen portions of salmon that I'll have to thaw. And yeah, so I'll just bring you along cooking with me, and maybe we'll get some of that salmon thawing. Only 4 o'clock, so, well, 4:15. But I'm not sure when Zane will be home though. Yeah, he's out saving the world, rescuing the world, delivering packages. Not really, but probably just rescuing those of you at home, waiting on your packages. So yeah, I'll be waiting for him before I serve dinner, but I guess it doesn't hurt to go ahead and thaw out your salmon. So let's go ahead and get that started. So here I'm just setting those pieces of salmon out to kind of thaw, and then while those are thawing, I created a little bit of a sauce for just to put on top of those with some horseradish mustard, some maple syrup, and some lemon juice. Squeezed half of a lemon into that mixture, and then I just added some different seasonings, and I also added a little bit of zest from that lemon. So first I'm just adding some paprika and just a little bit, enough to give it a little bit of spice. Also some garlic paste that I got at Aldi. I really like this stuff. I've been cooking with it a lot since I bought it. Also, I'm gonna melt some butter, and probably about a little over a tablespoon of butter, and I'm gonna put that into my sauce. I'm just mixing that up, and also with some basil, just some dried basil, and then salt and pepper, of course. Next, some crushed red pepper flakes, just to get a little bit of spice, and I think that gave it really the kick that it needed, along with that horseradish in there. Next, my butter was done being melted, so I just added that in and mixed it all up with a fork. And with this meal, I also made some couscous and just added some butter, lemon juice, lemon zest, which I'm also adding some lemon zest to that sauce for my salmon. But the couscous was really good alongside this because the flavors paired really nicely. And I smelt it, and it smells pretty darn good. So next I just cut some lemons up because I wanted to place a couple of slices of lemon onto my salmon portions after I did the sauce, just to kind of amp up that lemon flavor. Next I grabbed some foil and I put my portions of salmon onto it. So I just cut open those thawed out portions and place those on top there, and then I'm going to be adding the sauce on top of that, and then the lemons on top of that, and wrapping it up into that foil. And I guess before I did all of that, I added some olive oil to my aluminum foil so that they didn't stick. So I'm just going to pour that sauce directly on top of those salmon portions, and then place the 2 lemon slices directly on top of the sauce. There they are, and then I'm going to be adding, or I'm just going to be wrapping up with that aluminum so that it will really steam the salmon portions. And also so they don't really dry out in the oven as well. So next onto that pan, I just added some parchment paper, I think, and I grabbed some of those frozen Brussels sprouts from my freezer out, and I put those onto the pan and then put a little bit of oil, just some olive oil on top of them, and all the seasonings that I wanted to add to those on top of that as well, and mix those together. We love roasted Brussels sprouts like this, and throwing them in the freezer before they go bad is a helpful way to save money when you buy fresh Brussels sprouts and don't get to them in time. So I just added some salt and pepper freshly cracked on there, and of course always do that, but I also like to add garlic powder and onion powder and Italian seasoning. Also, some stores sell a really good Greek seasoning that I like to add to my roasted vegetables as well. So those are all the seasonings I chose to use, starting with onion powder, garlic powder, and paprika. And of course, Italian seasoning. And I just kind of massaged that oil and seasoning into my stuff. Anyway, this dinner was delicious, and I didn't film the rest of it, but just know it was great. So thank you so much for watching, and like, comment, and subscribe if you did like it.